Have you ever felt like your life is stuck on repeat, where every day seems the same and your potential quietly slips through the cracks? What if the only thing standing between you and the life you truly want is your own mind? What you're about to discover isn't just philosophy. It's a daily guide to becoming unshakable, unstoppable, and unbreakable. Welcome to this video. Force yourself to be the best day after day. 13 lessons from Stoicism. This isn't just another motivational speech. It's a battle cry for everyone who knows deep down they were made for more. Every day, we face a choice: to let the world shape us or to shape ourselves. And the Stoics, men who lived through war, slavery, loss, and power, left behind tools that can help us make the right choice. Stoicism isn't about being emotionless or cold. It's about becoming anchored, rooted in purpose, calm in the storm. It's about learning to control what you can and release what you can't. In this long-form journey, we'll explore 13 powerful Stoic principles that, when lived out, will help you push past your comfort zone, conquer fear, and build a life of meaning, one disciplined day at a time. Let's begin. Imagine waking up one morning feeling overwhelmed by everything outside your control. Global news, someone's rude comment, a missed opportunity. It's exhausting, isn't it? The Stoics saw this kind of worry as a trap, a draining, endless spiral that pulls you into a storm you were never meant to manage. But here's the liberating truth. You are not responsible for everything. You are responsible only for your mind, your actions, your character. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor burdened with unimaginable stress, wrote these words in his journal: "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. These weren't just lofty ideals, they were survival tactics. Imagine being the ruler of an empire, facing betrayal, war, disease, and death. Yet he found peace by focusing only on what he could control: his thoughts, his choices, his response to it all. Let's bring that into your world. You can't control how someone treats you, but you can choose how to respond, with anger or with grace. You can't control the economy, but you can manage how you spend and save. You can't predict outcomes, but you can control how you prepare. The Stoics taught that the key to freedom is responsibility, not over everything, but over the right things. So, next time life throws chaos your way, pause. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If it is, act. If it isn't, release it. And that release, that's where peace begins. Because when you focus only on your sphere of influence, your character, your habits, your mindset, you reclaim your power. You begin to live, not react. And that, my friend, is the first building block to becoming your best self. Now that we've taken back control over our minds, it's time to face something we all encounter but rarely welcome: adversity. Let's explore how even our darkest moments can reveal our greatest strength. Once you begin focusing on what you can control, your thoughts, choices, and actions, life presents the next challenge. What happens when things fall apart, despite your best efforts? This is where adversity enters, not as a punishment, but as a powerful teacher. It tests the foundation you're building and asks you, what are you really made of? Let's talk about a man who knew adversity like few others: Epictetus. Born into slavery, Epictetus didn't own his freedom, possessions, or even his own body. And yet, through all that, he discovered something extraordinary. His mind was free. The world could chain his body, but not his thoughts, not his will. He became one of the most influential philosophers in history, not in spite of hardship, but because of it. Adversity, for the Stoics, was never the enemy. It was the proving ground, the arena where character is forged, not broken. Think of a blacksmith. The hotter the fire, the stronger the blade. That's how Stoics viewed life's difficulties. They're not obstacles, they're opportunities to sharpen who you are. But let's bring this home. Maybe you've lost a job, maybe a relationship ended, or you're dealing with grief, uncertainty, or failure. It feels like the ground is shifting beneath your feet, and it's easy in moments like that to think you're falling apart. But what if you're not falling apart? What if you're being shaped? The Stoics would tell you, lean in. Don't resist the pain, study it. What is this adversity revealing in you? Is it exposing a fear you've ignored, a strength you never knew you had? Pain uncovers what comfort hides. And here's something beautiful. When you endure hardship, with presence, not panic, when you meet suffering with strength, not self-pity, you grow. You become someone others look to, someone who radiates quiet power. Because adversity doesn't just reveal your strength, it builds it. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." That means you don't grow. In spite of your challenges, you grow because of them. So don't waste your suffering, don't numb it, don't rush to escape it, learn from it. Let it make you more. Now imagine waking up tomorrow still facing the same challenge, but instead of seeing it as a threat, you see it as your training ground. What could shift in your life if you began treating adversity as your greatest teacher? Once you embrace adversity, there's another key realization on the Stoic path, that greatness doesn't come from intensity alone, it comes from consistency. And that leads us straight into the next lesson. After realizing that adversity reveals your true strength, the Stoics would ask you, what will you do with that strength day after day? Because one moment of courage isn't enough. One breakthrough doesn't build a legacy. The answer lies in your daily actions, in your habits. In a world obsessed with quick wins, viral success, and flashy moments, Stoicism turns our gaze towards something quieter, yet infinitely more powerful: consistency. The Stoics didn't care how motivated you felt in the morning. They cared whether you showed up anyway, every day, especially when no one was watching. Let's think about this. How many times have you made a bold declaration to change your life? I'll wake up early every day. I'll start working out. I'll write that book. And maybe for a few days you're on fire, but then motivation fades, life gets messy, and your resolve dissolves. Sound familiar? That's because motivation is a spark. But habits, that's the firewood. It's what keeps the flame alive when the weather turns cold. Seneca, in his wisdom, emphasized repetition. He knew that we become what we repeatedly do. Character isn't formed in a flash of inspiration. It's built, brick by brick, in the repetition of small intentional acts. You don't suddenly become patient, brave, or disciplined. You train for it, the same way a musician trains their fingers or an athlete trains their body. Let me share a personal example. A friend of mine wanted to become a writer, but every time she sat down to write, she'd wait for the right mood. Weeks passed, then months, until one day she made a decision. Just write 100 words a day. That's it. Rain or shine, tired or energized, brilliant or uninspired. 100 words. Over time it became automatic, and within a year she finished her first novel. That's the Stoic way: build a system. Tie your goals to actions, not feelings. Want to read more? Put a book next to your coffee cup. Want to stretch every morning? Lay your mat beside your bed. Make it easy, make it obvious, make it daily. Because when the storms of life come, and they will, it won't be your mood that saves you. It'll be your habits. They are your anchor, your quiet superpower. Scott Adams, creator of Dilbert, once said, "Goals are for losers, systems are for winners." That may sound harsh, but there's truth in it. Goals are outcomes. Habits are identity. When you build the right systems, the results follow. So ask yourself, what small, repeatable action can I commit to today? Not next week, not when life calms down. Today. And now that we've explored how to sustain progress through systems, there's something else we must confront: our relationship with time. Because if habits are the engine, time is the fuel, and once it's gone, it's gone. Let's dive into that next. We've just explored the power of habits, those daily disciplines, that shape who we become. But what gives those habits their weight, their urgency, their meaning? It's time. And here's the most sobering truth the Stoics ever taught us. Time is not just valuable, it's irreplaceable. Seneca, in his short but powerful essay on the shortness of life, wrote, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." That line hits like a lightning bolt. Because if we're honest, most of us aren't short on time, we're just distracted, delayed, or directionless. Think about this. Every morning you wake up with the same 24 hours as Marcus Aurelius once did, as Epictetus did, as every legend in history has had. And yet, how often do we act like we have an unlimited supply? We treat time like loose change, spent carelessly on things that don't matter, tossed at distractions that don't serve us. The Stoics treated time like gold. For them, every minute was an opportunity to grow, to reflect, to act with purpose. Marcus Aurelius would often meditate at the start of each day and remind himself that death could come at any time, not to be morbid, but to be awake, to live with clarity. We live in a culture addicted to later. I'll start next week. I'll do it when I have more time. But Stoicism teaches us that later is not a guarantee. You don't have forever. That's not meant to scare you. It's meant to free you. Because when you truly grasp that time is finite, you stop wasting it on what doesn't matter. Here's a simple practice. Look at your calendar and ask, does my schedule reflect what I say I value? If you say health matters, is there time blocked for exercise or rest? If you say your family matters, are they present in your routine? If growth matters, do you carve out time to learn or create? The point isn't to fill your days with endless tasks. It's to fill them with intentional action. Quality over quantity, purpose over performance. You can always earn more money. You can rebuild relationships. You can even restart your career. But you will never ever get back a wasted year, a wasted day, a wasted moment. So the Stoics urge us, don't postpone your life. Don't delay becoming who you're meant to be. The clock is ticking not as a threat, but as a call to action. And if you're wondering how to move forward without feeling overwhelmed by the big picture, the answer lies in something much smaller and far more manageable. Because true transformation doesn't come from massive, sudden change. It comes from small, consistent progress. Let's take a deeper look at how tiny daily actions can build the life you've always wanted. Starting now. Once you begin treating time like the precious, non-renewable resource it is, the question becomes, how do you use it wisely without becoming overwhelmed? The Stoic answer is beautifully simple. You take one small step at a time. We live in a world that celebrates speed. Headlines scream about overnight success, rapid transformation, and the fastest way to win. But the Stoics, they were never impressed by speed. They were impressed by steadiness. To them, consistency was the true mark of greatness. Let's revisit Marcus Aurelius. As Emperor of Rome, he wasn't crafting life-changing philosophy in a quiet retreat. He was writing in stolen moments between wars, before meetings, in the middle of exhaustion. But every day he wrote, a few lines, a short reflection, nothing grand or perfect. And yet, those fragments became meditations, one of the most enduring books in history. That's the power of small steps. James Clear, the modern author of Atomic Habits, echoes this ancient wisdom in a modern voice. He calls it the 1% principle. Get just 1% better every day. Doesn't sound like much, right? But over the course of a year, those 1% gains compound. You're not just a little better, you're 37 times better. Let that sink in. You don't have to change everything today. You just have to change something. Drink one more glass of water. Read 2 pages. Take a 5-minute walk. Smile at a stranger. Clean one drawer. Call one person. That's it. Progress isn't always loud. In fact, it rarely is. It's quiet, steady, and almost invisible. Until it's not. The Stoics believed that daily action was more powerful than yearly intention. Seneca wrote, "Well-being is attained by little and little, and nevertheless is no little thing itself." In other words, big change is the result of many small, patient decisions. You might think, but what if I miss a day? The Stoics would remind you, missing one day doesn't define you. What matters is returning the next day. Real strength is not perfection, it's perseverance. Progress is a path, not a finish line. I once knew a man who started jogging by running to the mailbox and back. That was it. Just one trip. Every day, he added a little more. After a year, he was running half marathons. He didn't start strong, he started small, and that made all the difference. So if you've been waiting for the right moment to start building the life you want, this is it. Not tomorrow, not next Monday. Now. Because every small step you take is a declaration. I am becoming the person I was meant to be. And speaking of becoming, there's one uncomfortable truth we all must face. Growth isn't just found in easy wins or small victories. It's often born in pain, discomfort, and challenge, which brings us to a lesson the Stoics embraced wholeheartedly. Let's talk about the surprising power of discomfort. So far, we've seen that real progress doesn't require giant leaps. It comes from small, steady steps. But what happens when even those small steps feel hard? When the path forward feels uncomfortable, uncertain, or downright painful? That, my friend, is where the real growth begins. The Stoics didn't run from discomfort. They welcomed it. To them, discomfort wasn't something to fear. It was a compass, pointing you toward where you need to grow. Take Seneca, for instance, one of the wealthiest and most powerful men in Rome. Yet he routinely practiced living with less. He slept on the floor, wore rough clothes, ate the simplest meals. Why? Because he knew that if comfort defined his happiness, then he would always be its prisoner. So he trained his mind. He taught it to detach from pleasure and endure difficulty. In today's world, we're taught the opposite. We're told to chase ease, to avoid pain, to eliminate inconvenience at all costs. But comfort zones, as cozy as they seem, are dangerous places. Stay in one long enough and you stop evolving. You stop testing yourself. You stop becoming. Let me ask you, when was the last time you deliberately chose discomfort? Maybe it was waking up early to exercise, speaking up in a meeting, having a difficult conversation, trying something new that scared you. It's never easy, but wasn't it always worth it? That's the secret Stoicism unlocks. Discomfort is the gateway to transformation. And not just in theory. Science backs this up too. Psychologists call it the stretch zone, the space between ease and overwhelm, where learning and development happen. Too little pressure and you stagnate. Too much and you shut down. But just the right amount of challenge, that's where you grow. Remember this, the life you want is likely hidden behind the things you've been avoiding. The task that scares you, the challenge you've delayed, the truth you haven't told yourself yet. Discomfort isn't your enemy. It's your training ground. I once heard a quote that stuck with me. Pain is inevitable. Growth is optional. The Stoics would agree, but they would add, choose growth every time. And the more often you step into discomfort, the less it controls you. What was once terrifying becomes routine. What was once overwhelming becomes familiar. And you become stronger, sharper, and more courageous. Now, this isn't about throwing yourself into chaos. It's about embracing resistance when it appears. Treating every uncomfortable moment not as a sign to stop, but as a signal that you're on the edge of something meaningful. So the next time you feel fear, nervousness, or hesitation, pause and ask, is this discomfort? Or is this growth knocking at my door? And once you stop needing things to feel easy, you unlock a deeper strength, the ability to act with purpose regardless of your feelings. Which brings us to a powerful shift in mindset, one that frees you from the grip of public opinion and helps you reclaim your inner compass. Let's explore why the most meaningful work is often done without applause. When you begin choosing discomfort as a path to growth, you stop needing everything to feel easy. But there's another trap that can quietly pull you off course, even when you're doing the right things: the need for approval. Because let's be honest, it feels good to be seen, praised, and celebrated. But what happens when no one claps? The Stoics warned us, never tie your worth to the crowd. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and philosopher king, led millions. But he didn't lead for applause. In fact, he often reminded himself not to expect recognition. Do every act of your life, he wrote, as though it were your last. Not for praise, not for credit, but because it was the right thing to do. That's the essence of this lesson. Act from principle, not performance. Because applause is unpredictable. One day they cheer, the next they forget you exist. If you live for their claps, their silence will destroy you. Let me tell you a story. A woman I knew spent years working on a project that meant everything to her. It was quiet, meaningful work, mentoring teens, guiding them through life, helping them heal. No stage, no spotlight, no viral moments. And for a long time she felt invisible, until one day one of those teens, now grown, stood up in a room full of people and said, "She saved my life." Not because of one grand gesture, but because she showed up day after day with love, with discipline, with consistency. She didn't do it for applause, and yet what she did echoed louder than any standing ovation ever could. That's what Stoicism teaches us. Your value doesn't depend on who notices. It depends on who you become. Imagine a sculptor working alone in a studio. No one watches, no one applauds, and yet he carves with care, with purpose, not for attention, but because he knows what he's building matters. That sculptor is you. Every time you choose integrity over image, every time you act with honor, even when no one sees, Seneca said the reward of a good deed is in having done it. In other words, the act itself is enough. You don't need to go viral, you don't need to be validated. What you need is to respect yourself, to know that what you're building matters, even if the world never throws you a parade. So the next time you're tempted to chase praise, pause, ask, would I still do this even if no one noticed? If the answer is yes, you're on the right path. Because real fulfillment comes not from claps, but from living in alignment with your values. And speaking of values, there's something deeply important we often misunderstand. The journey of becoming. Better, of investing in yourself, isn't selfish. In fact, it's the opposite. Let's explore how becoming your best self is one of the most generous things you can do for the people around you. Once you stop chasing applause and start acting from principle, something powerful happens. You begin focusing inward, not to isolate yourself, but to elevate your impact. But here's where many people get it wrong. Somewhere along the way, we've been taught that focusing on ourselves is selfish, that becoming better somehow means we care less about others. The Stoics would say, nothing could be further from the truth. Seneca, ever the voice of reason, put it plainly, if you want to help the world, first improve yourself. Why? Because you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give wisdom if your own mind is chaotic. You cannot offer peace if you haven't made peace within yourself. Becoming the best version of you isn't self-centered, it's service-centered. You're sharpening the tool through which you serve the world. Let's look at a modern example. A friend of mine was a father of 3, deeply committed to his family. He worked tirelessly, late nights, weekends, always available. But over time, something changed. He grew impatient, he snapped more often, he stopped laughing. When his wife gently suggested he take some time for himself, he resisted. "I can't," he said. "I have to take care of everyone." Eventually he burned out. Only then did he finally listen. He began waking up a bit earlier, reading quietly, going for short walks. He reconnected with what fueled him. Slowly, his light came back. He became more present, more patient, more himself. What looked like self-focus from the outside was actually an act of love. By filling his own cup, he could overflow into others. That's the Stoic way. You cultivate your inner life, not as an escape from the world, but as a gift to the world. This philosophy isn't about locking yourself in a room and ignoring people. It's about strengthening your foundation so that when life shakes, you don't collapse and you can support those who need you. Self-improvement isn't vanity. It's responsibility. You want to be a better parent? Work on your patience. You want to be a better leader? Develop your emotional discipline. You want to be a better partner? Strengthen your values, your communication, your empathy. And when others question your growth, when they say you've changed, a smile. Say thank you. Because growth is change, and you're not here to stay the same. So invest in yourself, not just for you, but for everyone whose life you touch. Your growth is a ripple effect, and you never know how far it will reach. Now, as you focus more on becoming your best self, there's a silent thief you must guard against, one that steals your energy, your peace, and your progress. It's comparison. Let's talk about why the only person you need to compete with is who you were yesterday. As you begin the journey of self-improvement, a quiet trap often appears. You're doing the work, building habits, investing in your growth, and then, suddenly, you glance to the side. Someone else is ahead. Their life looks shinier, faster, more successful. And just like that, your progress feels small. You start doubting yourself. This is the danger of comparison. The Stoics had no time for this kind of thinking. Epictetus warned, "What's the point of worrying about what others do?" He understood that comparing yourself to others is like running a race while looking sideways. You lose your focus, your rhythm, and eventually your footing. Comparison doesn't motivate. It distracts. It clouds your judgment. It whispers, "You're not enough," even when you're growing, evolving, becoming. Here's the truth: you are not meant to live their life. You are meant to live yours, with your strengths, your experiences, your timing. No two journeys are identical, and they're not supposed to be. Let me give you a real example. A woman I know had been working on her art for years, quietly, with devotion. She loved it, until social media got involved. She started following other artists. Suddenly her joy turned into pressure. Their work looked better. Their followings were larger. Their success seemed effortless. She nearly quit, until one day, a mentor told her, "You're comparing your roots to someone else's blossoms. Keep growing." That moment shifted everything. She unplugged, reconnected with why she started, focused on her next brushstroke instead of their highlight reel. Over time, not only did her art flourish, her peace returned. The Stoics would applaud that, because comparison is often an illusion, especially now when everyone's life online is filtered, polished, and curated. You're not seeing the behind the scenes. You're seeing their best 10 seconds and comparing them to your full, unfiltered life. So what's the alternative? Compete with yourself. Ask, "Am I better than I was yesterday?" If the answer is yes, you're winning. If not, make a small adjustment. That's all. Track your own growth. Celebrate your small wins. Reflect on how far you've come, not how far someone else appears to be. And if you ever feel the pull to compare, pause, breathe. Remind yourself, you're not falling behind, you're following your own path. Progress is not a race, it's a rhythm. Walk it at your own pace. Now that we've cleared the noise of comparison, it's time to deepen your presence. Because none of this matters, your habits, your progress, your potential, if your mind is always somewhere else. Let's talk about the power of being truly present, starting now. Once you free yourself from the burden of comparison, you begin to see your own life more clearly. But even then, there's another subtle force that steals your energy. Not the past, not the future, not other people, but distraction. You may be doing everything right, but if your mind is never here, you're not really living. That's why the Stoics valued presence not just as a virtue, but as a necessity. Seneca said it best: "True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future." And in that one sentence, he captured a timeless truth. Life is not lived in yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's dreams. It's lived now. But how often do we miss it? You're at dinner with your loved ones, but your phone is in your hand. You're walking through a beautiful park, but your thoughts are stuck on an unfinished email. You're reading a book, but your eyes glaze over halfway down the page. You're there, but not really. The Stoics would call this a kind of inner fragmentation, a divided soul, a mind chasing 1,000 things, but missing the only one that matters. This moment, and it's not just a philosophical idea, it's a practical warning, because when you're not present, you miss the joy in simple things. You miss the chance to hear your child's laughter, to notice the kindness in a stranger's eyes, to feel gratitude for a quiet morning. You miss life, not because it's not happening, but because you're too distracted to notice it. Here's a Stoic practice to bring you back. Every time you catch your mind drifting, say silently to yourself, "Be here." Not fix everything, not figure it all out, just be here in this conversation, in this task, in this breath. Try it. You'll notice how your body softens, your breath slows, your focus sharpens. Being present doesn't require a silent retreat or a meditation cushion. It requires attention, intention, a willingness to fully engage with what's in front of you, even if it's mundane, especially if it's mundane, because presence turns the ordinary into sacred. It's how you show love, how you build trust, how you live a life that feels real, not rushed. So if you've been feeling disconnected, restless, like your days blur together, this is your invitation. Return to the moment. Anchor yourself. Take back the power that distraction has stolen, and once you do, you'll realize something else. Your body, this vessel that carries your attention, is more than just a shell. It's your foundation. Let's explore why taking care of your body is not just a matter of health, but of purpose. Now that you've begun reclaiming your presence, showing up fully for the people and moments that matter, there's something you'll quickly notice. Your ability to stay present is deeply connected to your physical state. When your body is exhausted, your mind feels foggy. When you neglect your health, your spirit dims. That's why the Stoics didn't separate body from mind. They knew your body is your foundation. Seneca once wrote, "We must take care of the body, not for its own sake, but because a sound mind requires a sound body." He wasn't obsessed with physical beauty or strength for appearance's sake. He understood that if your body is weak, distracted by pain or illness, your capacity for virtue and wisdom is limited. You can't think clearly when you're sleep-deprived. You can't act with patience when you're burned out. But let's face it, in our modern world, it's easy to treat the body like an afterthought. We push it past its limits. We ignore its signals. We sit too long, sleep too little, fuel ourselves with fast food and caffeine. And then we wonder why we feel anxious, unfocused, or emotionally flat. The Stoics would remind us, your body isn't a machine to be used up. It's a sacred tool, one that allows you to do meaningful work, to serve others, to live with energy and resilience. Let me tell you about my neighbor, Maria. For years, she was constantly tired, sluggish, struggling with aches that never seemed to go away. She thought it was just getting older, but then one day, her daughter took her for a simple walk around the block. The first few steps were hard, but something shifted. The next day, they walked again and again. She started eating more nourishing food, stretching and drinking more water. Slowly, the aches faded. But more importantly, her laughter returned. Her spark came back. The body didn't just carry her, it brought her back to life. That's the Stoic perspective in action. Care for the body so that the mind and soul can thrive. You don't need to become an athlete or live in a gym. Just start with small shifts. Go for a walk in the sunlight. Stretch for 5 minutes in the morning. Eat one meal today that fuels you instead of draining you. Get to bed a bit earlier. These aren't luxuries. They're commitments to your future self. Because when your body is strong, your spirit becomes unshakable. When you move with energy, you lead with intention. And when you respect your physical well-being, you align with the Stoic ideal of holistic strength. And that strength matters now more than ever. Because even with a strong body, a clear mind, and noble goals, there's still one thing that can hold you back: hesitation. So let's talk about what it really means to stop overthinking and start moving. It's time to turn intention into action. With a steady body and a focused mind, you now have the tools to live intentionally. But tools mean nothing if they're never used. And here lies one of the greatest traps of our time. Not failure, not ignorance, but overthinking. We analyze, plan, second-guess, and wait, while life quietly slips by. The Stoics saw this clearly. Knowledge is useless without action. Marcus Aurelius said it bluntly. Stop debating what it means to be good. Be good. He wasn't calling for recklessness, he was calling for movement. Clarity doesn't come from sitting still, it comes from doing. How many times have you caught yourself in this loop? I'll start my business when the timing is right. I'll speak up once I feel more confident. I'll get in shape when work slows down. Sound familiar? We wait for the perfect moment, the perfect version of ourselves, the perfect plan. But perfection never comes. And while we hesitate, opportunities pass. Let me share a personal story. A friend once dreamed of becoming a speaker. He studied endlessly, books, courses, videos, but he never booked his first talk. Why? He didn't feel ready. He told himself he needed more preparation, more experience, more certainty. One day a mentor told him, "You don't need more knowledge, you need a microphone." That line changed everything. He signed up for a local event. Was it perfect? No. Was it messy? A little, but he did it. And that first imperfect action led to another, and another. That's how momentum begins. The Stoics believed that action was the cure to doubt, not thinking harder, not over-planning. Moving Epictetus taught his students, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In other words, define your values, and then live them. Don't just admire courage, act courageously. Don't just study discipline. Practice it. Don't just dream. Build. And if fear is what's holding you back, try this simple trick, the 5-second rule by Mel Robbins. When you feel hesitation creeping in, count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and move, before your mind can talk you out of it. Send the email. Make the call, say the words, start the page. Your future self doesn't need you to be flawless. They need you to begin, because real growth doesn't come from knowing more. It comes from doing more. So ask yourself, what have you been overthinking lately? What decision have you been delaying? What step have you been waiting too long to take? Do it now. Not when you're more motivated, not when life gets easier, now. And once you start acting consistently, there's one final force that will determine whether you follow through. It's not talent. It's not passion. It's the invisible muscle that holds everything together. Let's finish strong by unlocking the power of discipline. After all the knowledge, clarity, and action you've cultivated, there remains one final ingredient that determines whether you keep going or fall back: discipline. While motivation may spark a beginning, only discipline ensures the journey continues. The Stoics knew this better than anyone, because they lived by it every single day. Epictetus didn't just talk about strength of will, he practiced it. Born a slave, later crippled, he rose to become one of history's greatest teachers. He once said, "No great thing is created suddenly." That wasn't just philosophy. It was a reminder that mastery of the self, of life, comes from sustained effort, not short bursts of inspiration. Discipline is the quiet force behind every meaningful transformation. It's what gets you out of bed when the excitement has faded. It's what pushes you to write the next page, show up to the gym, keep your word, speak with integrity, even when no one's watching. Especially then. Let me tell you about a man I greatly admire. Every morning, rain or shine, he wakes up at 5:30 a.m. and walks for an hour. Not because he's training for a race, not because anyone's watching, but because he promised himself he would. And every day he keeps that promise. His self-respect grows. His clarity sharpens. His strength deepens. That's discipline. It's not glamorous, it's not exciting, it's repetitive, quiet, often thankless, but it's what builds a life you're proud of. Marcus Aurelius, ruling the vast Roman Empire, journaled every morning, not to impress others, but to train himself, to stay aligned, to remember who he wanted to be. He didn't rely on mood, he relied on method. You can do the same. Want to be disciplined? Start with structure. Create a routine that serves your values. Block time for what matters. Then protect it like it's sacred. Remove temptations that pull you away. Make doing the right thing easier than not doing it. And here's something powerful. Discipline is not about self-punishment. It's an act of self-respect. It says, I matter enough to follow through. It says, my goals are worth the effort. It's a declaration of identity. This is who I am, even when it's hard. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist at Stanford, says it best. Discipline is not about willpower. It's about training your nervous system. The more you practice showing up, the easier it becomes to show up again. So if you've been waiting for the perfect day, the perfect motivation, the perfect mood, it's time to stop. Start now. With discipline. Because when you act from discipline, every day becomes a building block. You're not just surviving. You're shaping something extraordinary. And when the storms come, and they will, it won't be motivation that keeps you grounded. It will be the habits you've built, the identity you've forged, the quiet strength of discipline you've repeated day after day. Now take a deep breath. You've walked through 13 powerful Stoic lessons, not just ideas, but invitations to live differently, to grow, to act, to become. So ask yourself gently but honestly, Who do I choose to be starting today? You've just journeyed through 13 timeless lessons from Stoic wisdom, lessons that don't just inspire but transform. These aren't abstract theories. They are tools, anchors, compass points to help you navigate a world that's often chaotic, uncertain, and loud. But now comes the most important part, because knowing isn't enough. You must choose to show up, to take responsibility, to act with courage, even when it's hard. To live not by default but by design. Maybe one of these lessons spoke directly to your heart. Maybe all of them did. The question is, what will you do with that? Because the Stoics didn't wait for the perfect moment to begin living with purpose. They made the moment perfect by how they lived in it. And you can too. So here's your invitation. Take one of these 13 lessons and live it out today. Start small, be consistent, then come back tomorrow and do it again. And if this video resonated with you, help it reach others who need to hear this. Like, subscribe, and share it with someone you care about. And in the comments, let us know, what's one thing you'll do today to become your best self? And if you've made it all the way to the end, type this in the comments to let us know you're serious about growth. I choose to grow every day. Let's build something powerful together. Until next time, stay grounded, stay brave, and keep embracing your inner Stoic.